but you can see how that valve is bent.
Yeah, it's faint, but I see it there.
You stick that thing in there, man.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. Hey, what up, people? Yeah, last weekend was dope. It was really dope. That was also the most boost that I've ever put through this engine. Took it like a champ. Only thing is though, is come like mid fourth gear and early fourth gear in some instances, it had like this horrible sound, almost like it was like losing a cylinder. And I combed through all the data, you know, everything. I can't find not a thing wrong, like nothing. And you know, I did this harness myself. I looked at everything. There's nothing going on with any of the wiring. There's nothing like that. There's no glitches. There was no issues with the battery. So what I'm gonna do is do a leak down, do a compression test, just the basics, see what the health of the motor is. And once we get done with that, I'm actually going to be upgrading at least over the course of the next week or so to IG 1A coils. I don't necessarily think that it might be the coils just yet, but at the same time, these coils have also been here for like 5 years. The ultimate test would have been at the track anyway, to have 4 new coils and at least, you know, get a pull through 3rd and 4th gear and, you know, verify that everything's, you know, fixed or not, you know. So let's do a compression test. These are things we need to be doing anyway. Let's do a leak down. I got a new leak down tester that's here. And yeah, let's go from there. You know, you guys will discover with me. And here we have the new IGN 1A coils. These are massive. What I've noticed is that there are many companies that are getting these. They're some sort of marine coil and they are rebranding them, but you know, that's why they're for the most part all the same coils. AEM has them, Haltech has them, Holly has them. I get a ton of shit from Ballinger on a regular basis, so this is their version of it. They're huge. I got really big hands, and for scope, I mean, massive. So and I mean, compare this to your K-series coil. Imagine, look at this built-in igniter compared to that. Wow. You know, and the K-series coils actually perform really good. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the millijoules or, you know, the capacity is for these, but it's probably something close to the Yaris coils or things like that from a couple of other Denso units in cars. So it's probably like, I don't know, 30-40 millijoules. This is like 150. So pretty insane. Very insane. I can't wait to get that on. I just got to figure out where I'm going to mount them. Yeah, so here's my new leak down. Nice and fancy. I needed a good one, so I finally got a good one. Here's the old plugs. It just came out. Not even old. They only went in for a pass. So that's cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. And I mean, honestly, they look fine. They look just as good as the ones that came out. So let's get this done. Let's see where we're at. We'll go cylinder by cylinder and take note. But I'm gonna do a compression test first, actually, just to give me an all around before we get a little more involved with the leak down. Alright, so we'll start with cylinder 1, and hopefully we'll get even numbers across the board. If one of them is like way off, you know, we automatically know we have a problem. But compression test is just a rough dynamic compression, you know, the test here. We're just getting an overall look at what's going on, how it's sealing. The number itself doesn't really matter to me. It's more so the consistency. So let's see what we got for cylinder number 1. Alright, so that cold for cylinder number 1, we've got, let's see, just call it like almost 160, 158 or so. Alright, cylinder 2. Boy, yeah, that's not good.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy.
Cylinder 2 is down to about 135 or so. Try that again. Yep. Cylinder 2 is around 135. So we already know we have a problem. The only thing is though, is that it could be valves, rings. These are the things that we're also gonna check. So that's the whole purpose of doing this test. All right, cylinder 3. Cylinder 3 is good. Cylinder 3, we've got like 168 or so, closer to 1. And last but not least, cylinder 4. Cylinder 4, 170. So we got an issue with number 2 right now, and we got to figure out what that is. So now is where we would do the leak down, and that's going to basically give us a better idea of just exactly what is going on in cylinder number 2 that's causing us to have less compression. Is it a leaky intake valve? Is it a leaky exhaust valve? Are the piston rings going? You know, so it's one or the other. We'll figure it out. Alright, so now we've got the leak down all connected. And what we're going to do is, we're in cylinder number 1. I'm going to put cylinder number 1 to top dead center, and basically have all the valves closed. That's the idea. And we're going to apply pressure and basically just see what type of leak down we have. 100% leak down would be we have a very high leak down, air is escaping past everything, and 0 means there's a complete seal. So cylinder number 2 is going to show us some funky stuff. We just need to figure out where. So alright, so cylinder 1's where it needs to be, and now we'll basically just add pressure. So let's get some pressure into this valve, and we'll get, I usually use 100 pounds. Alright, so we've got about 18% leak down, cylinder 1. But what I can also do is listen in different places and see what we find. So if there's a leak past the rings, well, obviously when the compressor is not going off, it'll be there, or you'll hear it in the exhaust if it's an exhaust valve, intake if it's an intake valve. So that's the process. Let's see what the rest of them look like. When the compressor kind of quiets down, we'll we'll definitely see what we're looking like. But yeah, almost 20%. All right, so I was actually having a hard time being able to actually pop the engine into the right place. So what I did was pop the valve cover off, and so I can actually really monitor where TDC is and when the cylinders are actually closed. So this is number 3, and we're actually at 5% leakage, which is really good. So I'm gonna keep going where I can actually verify. You see, when you have it like this, the lobes pointing outward, you know that it's at TDC. So I'm gonna keep on going in that order, make my life a little easier, and then I'll actually really be able to verify where everything is. There you go. See, when we're doing number 4, this makes way more sense. So number 4 is about 6% leakage, and number 3 was actually really close to the same. So last but not least, let's do number 2 and see where we're at. And that is number 2. You guys ever seen Toy Story? He's like, oh man.
Oh man.
Well, cylinder 2 is fucked. And you hear that whistling? Let's go over to the exhaust. Not good. Not ideal, as my boy would say. Not ideal. All right. So, day 2 of uncovering the fuckery from the weekend. Long story short, this head's got to come out. It's got to come out. So, what I did was drain the ethanol out. Went and got some 93. I'm gonna toss that in there. Gonna actually start it up, let it run for a minute or so, just to get that cruising through the injector, so we don't have that issue when it's time to put everything back together. And yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. It is what it is. This is kind of what happens when you start going faster and faster and faster. It's like that drug where you, oh my god, look at the data, okay, well this is broken, but all right, well we'll fix it, no problem, you know, and then okay, it's a cycle, it's a huge cycle, but we'll get there. We will get there. Perseverance is like a real thing, especially when it comes to building race cars. So let's get to it. Ah. 93.
Oh yeah, I got 3 moments out.
Last start for a little while. quickest. That was the quickest head removal ever done. All right. Awesome. All right, so before we clean anything, you know, have a little peek and see what's going on. But these chambers look absolutely stunning for 50 pounds of boost, all tuned by me. Not so much of as a hiccup going on in there. So it's actually amazing. Looks really, 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 really good. Really good. These are supposed to be the two bad ones, at least from the leak down. And this is cylinder number 2, exhaust valves, and cylinder number 1 as well. So what I'll do is, once I get this inside, is pull the cams. Well, ideally I'd kind of want to turn the cams and see, but I don't really think I'm going to visually be able to see these bent here. It's probably really mild, but what I can do is toss some fuel in the chambers while they're closed like this. Haven't cleaned anything, haven't touched anything. Looks great. I wish we could find some problems, but goddamn. That's 52 pounds of boost. Well, I filled all of these up with fuel. And look, number 2. 100%. That's with no cams in. So, yeah, number 2 is definitely it. But that's okay, this is how we learn. I'll tell you what else is interesting. That's different from the other video. Check this out. It's only one valve in cylinder 2. It's this left one. Because look at the other one, completely full and not leaking. And all the other chambers kind of just doing their thing. So that's interesting. Might only be just one. So I'm literally here in my big basement wash sink, just cleaning up the gasket. You can see from the impressions. See those rings around the hole? That's where my O-rings are pressing into the gasket. I actually reuse these because unless we torch one, they're completely reusable. Just wash it, degrease it, and that's it. You know, you get ready for next round. This is the second time I've used this and it looks fucking great. What's really interesting is that I used to get some really bad wear on the cam journals here inside, and that is absolutely all gone. And I've changed some methods. Like I literally will not even start my car unless I have my oil warmer on for at least like 20 minutes. And also the old hole for the oil feed to the head, I actually drilled that out because on my gaskets that I was using, it was a little bit restricted. So I just drilled it out to the OEM size. I have amazing oil pressure, so there was really no need for that in my opinion. The head looks great. Like this is probably the best it's ever looked. And for my boy Sean down in Guyana, this is for you. You said you wanted to see what the wear looked like on the buckets. So this is 110 pounds at the seat and 280s with the GSC S3. So looks actually really, really, really good. Like really good. So yeah, kind of just excited to get this back. It looks like it's just one valve, but who knows? He'll go over it, replace what needs to be replaced, do a quick valve job, and get it back to me. At least that's the plan. So looking good, looking really good.
All right,
And we've arrived at Head Games. Nice. Let's go find the homie Dave.
Go in front of the door.
Oh, I got that already.
Did you?
I did. So we just got over to Head Games. This is my guy Dave.
Howdy.
What's going on?
Dave from Head Games. So we're going to take a little inspection of the cylinder head. Now we're not going to take the whole thing apart. We are just going to do a quick inspection to see what could be wrong. First thing I notice is the buckets. Now the buckets here, if you can see, take a look at this. I think you're going to have to
In the tank?
So you see how the bucket shows a lot of wear in the center, and you can feel it when you go like this. So this is, the bucket is bad. So like we might be able to polish a couple of these up, but some are really bad. Now this shows me that the head was definitely going through some valve float issues. We also had, we take a look at under the bucket, and it looks like the retainer was hitting the bucket here. And if you look very closely at the valve tip tells you a lot about what's going on. And if you can, I don't know if you can see, it's almost concave, and it has like these little dots in it
Right at the top of the stem.
right at the top of the stem right here. So you see how it's like centered and it's kind of concave. Like this is because it's floating so much, it's just beating the crap out of everything. You didn't bring the camshafts?
Yeah.
Oh, you brought the camshafts.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the cams. So when we look at the camshaft, a lot of guys with these billet cams are freaked out because they say, well, you have to run a DLC coated bucket with a billet cam. It's not actually the issue. It doesn't hurt you, but you don't have to run it. Now what I see here is there is an oil starvation issue going on. So I would say that there is probably a rod bearing going bad, because all this is indicative because there is some oil starvation. Now the head doesn't show that, right? So the head, you can see the head looks good. Like the journals in the head look pretty good, but they have a little bit of marring up on the corners here.
And we used to wipe
See-
these out for a living before.
What's that?
Remember we used to
Yeah,
wipe these
yeah.
out before?
Yep. Well, we figured out some issues with that, right? So now going off the bucket issue, if you look at the camshaft on the acceleration side of the cam, so this is the side that is opening up the valve, and then this is the side that's not, right? And you see how it beats it up on this side and really hard on the acceleration side. See how much wear is there? So that is from the buckets now out of time because it's floating.
Got it.
So it's slamming against the camshaft, and the camshaft is gonna win. It's gonna leave marks, but it's gonna start eating the bucket up. But you can see that there's definitely some oil starvation issues going on. And that's what it looks like from any time you have a valve float situation. You're displacing all your oil film strength.
Got it.
Because it's slamming against the bucket, and now it's striking the bucket dry.
Now, do you think that that's simply just because of how high I'm revving, or the actual volume of oil that's getting supplied?
Well, it could be the type of oil. It could be because of how much RPM you're running, because it's outside of where you should be running. And it could be that the valve spring, we just need to shim it more to give it a little bit more control.
More seat pressure.
Not so much pressure, but how far from coil bind. So if we get it a little tighter to coil bind, it might behave better.
I see.
Because we're going to use the actual coils. Well, I think it's got a conical in it, so we can't get too close to coil bind. They don't really like that. A dual does, a beehive kind of, sort of, but conical does not like to be too close to coil bind.
Got it. Got it.
But we definitely have an issue. We definitely need probably more spring pressure, and we need to take a look at the valves now, because the valves will show us a lot as well.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that when you sent me the video of fluid, a better way to check this is actually just using light. Light will always tell you what's going on, and it's way less messy. If I was able to see this when it was straight off the motor, I could see better things, but you can see how that valve is bent.
Yeah, it's faint. I see it there.
You stick that thing in there, man.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like dark. It's like you.
A little tunnel.
It's black.
We're friends.
So, but all the other ones look pretty good from here, but we're gonna look at the valves. So we got a couple valves out. Now on the intake valve, you'll see right here that there's like a ledge. Snooze that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ledge right here, and that ledge is from the 45-degree angle of the valve beating into the valve seat. So it's beating into here, and that's from the valve float. So it's just beating into the valve job, and whenever that happens, it's never a good thing. So this is what I was saying. You can see their valve float, and once the valve starts floating, it just actually makes it easier for it to float, because now we're going to lose distance because the valve's moving up, and that's when we start losing lash. And you can see it on your intake cam that it started. You can start seeing some marks here from it losing lash. Now it wasn't all of them, right? But there is quite a few of them where you can see some marks here,
Indentations, yeah.
from it losing lash, because that's the bucket riding against it. And then it just, once it's riding against it, now the lobe is never not in contact.
Got it.
Now we totally lost our oil clearance, and it's going to start eating the bucket and wiping the cam out.
Got it. Got it. All right. So let me ask you something too, right? So you know how people also are going with like, or at least some like much higher RPM guys that I've seen, starting to go with cams that have like a lot more duration and sometimes even like lose a little bit of lift. So it's more of like a
rounder lobe.
A rounder lobe. You think something like that would also help me?
I don't think that would help you.
No?
No, it's not how fast the lobe is. You know, it makes more power when you have a faster lobe.
Got it.
So I wouldn't say that we're not exceeding any kind of speed. I think that if you went with a slower lobe, it would I don't even think it would save you any parts. It's just that you're I think we need to figure out an RPM situation that you have going on. So you're exceeding some stuff. You definitely have some oil starvation, and this looks like oil starvation just because of other things going on in the motor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, so the exhaust valve looks really, really good. Like, it doesn't look like it got beat up at all on the 45, and you can see on the tip it's not bad.
Interesting.
So we'll get it apart and we'll inspect the rest of it, but I would say that we're going to definitely replace some buckets.
Okay.
We'll figure out the spring kit, get with Greg over at GSC. We'll figure out where we're going from there, and we'll send the cams over to him and he can polish them up, see if he can save them.
All right.
And hopefully you can get that motor apart and see if we have a rod bearing issue, because I think that's what's going on here.
Okay. All right.
Inspecting the valves, I kind of noticed that it looks like, let me see if I can put some light on it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on video, but it looks like we had some valve-to-valve contact between the intake valve and the exhaust valve. So you can see, usually that is always on the margin. So if you're going to hit the piston, it would be out here. It would always show out here, which I don't see much going on out here. But on the margin here, there is a little section where you could tell the valve-to-valve contact was taking place. So you'll see a little discoloration. I'm trying to find it for you guys. It's like right. You're gonna have to edit that. It's like right here.
Got you. I
See?
see that little hill now.
See, there's like a little...
It goes down. Yeah, that ridge.
There's like a ridge right here, but it's not anywhere else part of the valve. It's like, you might be able to hear it. It's like right there.
Yeah.
It comes across here. And on the intake valve, it'll do the same thing. So we already had a ridge from the valve bouncing. And you'll see some discoloration. It's hard to see. So it wasn't really doing it hard, but anytime that goes on, you definitely have a situation. Here it is. See, like it has like a little bit of discoloration from here to about there. There's like a little where it goes black, and then it's kind of chromish, like it's taking off some of the carbon.
So it's slight.
So it's very slight, but anytime that you're gnawing a valve back and forth, it's definitely not a good situation, because they can break the head of the valve off.
Got it. And
then you're motherfucking the valve manufacturer when it's actually got another issue going on.
Exactly.
So we need to figure out where we are on, when you're degreeing the cams in, where we are on overlap.
Okay. All right.
And that's it. So we'll take a look at it, try to finish it up for you, so we can bang some gears.
Yeah. Hopefully. All right, y'all. So you heard the man. We gotta fix a couple of things. Surprisingly, in what I'm used to, it's actually looking a whole lot better than normal. So we'll see what he says. We'll get that back in a couple of weeks, more than likely, maybe 2 or 3. We'll see what happens, because it's really busy right now as everyone basically prepares for World Cup finals. So once we get that done and we get the head back, I'm just also going to check out the block, as he says, just see if there's anything funky going on, and check out the rod bearings. If I got to slide some new ones in there, we'll do that. And yeah, pretty much just get ready to get right back to it. So again, thanks for watching. Subscribe, follow, more content coming.